There, my name is Donovan. I train women on how to create a life that is meaningful, fulfilling in every arena of her life. And so today I want to show you a very practical way on how to develop a morning and evening routine, but also to time block if you are a working mom, which is what I am. Now, I didn't start as a working mom. I have 8 children. I've been training one for almost 25 years, studying women, training women on the side while I was a mom. Didn't really do it as a job, but did it because I was passionate about it, but realized it just really transformed women because what I train women in is skill set, which is one of them. I teach hundreds of skills. One of them is routine, which really is the cornerstone of our peace of mind, of being able to create, I would say, a home that is full of life, is a certain order and rhythm. And so I'm going to talk about number one, morning routine, evening routine, but also time blocks. But first, what is a routine? Routine is a systematic pattern or rhythm towards our day that is essentially a form of accountability to help us achieve the things that we want to achieve without too much uh, energy spent reacting all day. So there's a certain rhythm of our day. Now, when developing a routine, the most important thing is actually our mindset. It's our perception. Mindset is, just for lack of deep explanation, is our perception about how we view ourselves, how we view the world, how we view our day. And most women today have no training on how to manage our mind, how to think about what we're thinking. We haven't been even trained in developing a routine, how to manage our mind. And maybe some of us have time management skill, but time management skill is so much more also a mind management, because it's not just about, you know, dot, 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 dot. It's having joy in your time. It's being fully present in the moment. And that's the purpose of having a rhythm of life, is that you're not reacting all day. So you actually can be fully present in the moment. You're looking at all the different needs in every part of your life, and you're saying, it can be fulfilled without me having to feel like I'm constantly stressed and running and trying to juggle things, right? That's what we often feel as, especially working moms, is that we're juggling, which the word itself is actually also very limiting. And what I mean by that is that words shape our perception. If I tell you, blah, 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 you're like, Jerry, what word is that? No image comes into mind. If I tell you stress mom, there's an image that comes to your mind. If I say peaceful, there's an image that comes to your mind. If I say juggling, there's also an image that comes into your mind. And so we have to ask ourselves, are the words that we are using actually limiting our perception about our ability to create a rhythm of life that brings greater peace, whether we're working, not working, or in between? So that is the first thing. Well, mindset is a training. It needs to be understood. We need to understand how our mind works. This is what we do in the women's school. And we need to understand how our current thinking is inhibiting us from experiencing life to the fullest, with meaning, with joy, and with great order, where we enjoy both our family, our work, and our relationships, and also take care of ourselves. Is it possible? Absolutely. I'm a living testimony of it as a mom of 8, building, multiple businesses, but also not compromising my priority as a mother. And I still have, ages 3 to 16. And I think it's an important thing for us to understand as women, is that we have to study our mindset so that we can create a routine that allows us to prioritize our family, to bring reverence into our role as mothers, which is that we just don't take care of them physically, we take care of them mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that we are here to form them to become responsible, disciplined adults that are going to contribute good to society. So it's not just about making sure they've got food on the table. It's not just making sure that we're taking them to all the soccer games and all the different things that we want them to do. It's that we want them to become greater than their current self, so that they mature every year, every season. So that requires us to be quite intentional about how we order our life, so we're not doing the bare minimum. Is it possible? Yes. How? With a lot of discipline, a lot of intentionality, and a lot of skill set, which requires a lot of our discipline, which is why I'm training you here, because I do think that in a world that's completely busy, that's making activity is almost a form of a god. The more we do, the more we feel successful. But that doesn't equate into what we define success in the woman's school, which is being fully alive and whole. Just because we're doing a lot of things, that doesn't mean that we are experiencing life to the fullest. So we have to be careful that we're not falling into the trap of a world that's telling us that what we do and how much we can do makes what makes us valuable as mother, as women. So we kind of need to take a massive assessment on also our understanding of what makes a good mother, a successful woman, and what we really want in our life. And so I'm just giving you the background on the importance of our routine, because sometimes we just think about it as just trying to get through our day. But it's so much more than that. It's being able to contribute the best of who we are to our family, our community, our work, our time, our talent, our relationships, our friendship, our home. And so the routine is a form of accountability that allows us to make sure that we give it its due. Now, one of the limiting things about, teaching you how to build a routine is because that's just one skill. What do I mean by that? If I teach you how to build a routine and you don't have skills on to make decision, how to say no to yourself, how to say no to your children, learn to discipline yourself to be able to follow through with your word, being resilient against critics, having to learn to pivot, recalibrate, how to manage uncertainty, how to manage frustration, it's going to be challenging to also sustain your routine, because that's just one skill. And this is the issue that I have with, I think, I would say, an issue I have with so much of women today who feel that they are blamed and shamed for the choices nobody ever showed them how to make. Skills are non-negotiable to a life of fulfillment, to a life of joy, of purpose, and of peace. And so even me teaching you how to build a routine without me giving you all those skills, and those just a few, is going to also put your routine and accountability to fulfill your routine at risk, because that's what happens that I see even with working moms is that, okay, maybe they'll start out with a routine, but they don't know how to say no to their children. They don't know how to say no to themselves. They don't know how to actually prioritize as a skill set. So there's so many compounding skills that are necessary to build a sustainable routine that protects your peace, your joy, and life of wholeness. Wholeness meaning we feel alive in every part of our life. That without, you learning those skills, it's going to be hard to be sustainable. Nonetheless, I'm going to show you how to build this routine with hopefully the intention that you will move forward and also learning other skill set. And that's what we teach in the women's school. We teach really hundreds of skill set, thousands of scripts. Why? Because that's how we shape our perception, is through words and through scripting. The words that we use create the language. The language that we use are either full of life or full of havoc and stress, and then we wonder why our life is not peaceful. So anyways, I'm giving you a lot of background. So a mindset is essential, and then skill set is essential in sustaining a routine. What is the purpose of a routine? To be able to be fully present and live a life of order so that you can contribute the best of who you are to the people that you love and build the right relationships that also fulfills you. You fulfill your purpose. And so the negative side of not building a routine is that you could be called and you not fulfill your call, which then makes you feel unfulfilled. What if you're called to, I don't know, write a book, or volunteer at school, or maybe lead an organization in your school that's doing a lot of good, but because you don't have a routine, you're so exhausted, you can't say yes to the things that you might be created for in that particular season of your life. And then you feel restless, you start comparing yourself, and you start wondering what's wrong with you, and then you feel really frustrated, and then it compounds into your children. Then you can't give to your children because you're frustrated and you're hijacked and you're stressed and anxious, and now your children are also now inheriting your anxiety and your stress, and they too have no routine and rhythm of life, and then it becomes a vicious generational crisis. So it's so much more, it's so much bigger than sometimes what we think about, this lack of routine and order. So that's, I think a huge component of the purpose of a routine is to fulfill our God-given call. Number two, so that we can a routine is a form of accountability so that we make sure we know when to shower. You know, you hear moms, I never know when to shower. That usually tells me they don't have a good rhythm of life. I don't have time to do anything. That usually tells me there's no order throughout the day. January, there's not enough time of day. That is actually more of an issue of managing priorities or managing how to say no or being, I would say, consistent in our ability to follow a rhythm of life. It's not that we don't have enough time of the day, it's that we don't know how to manage the time that we have been given, because a lot of people are able to do greater things. I mean, you hear people who have, multiple businesses while also a mom and doing it in a way that's, fulfilling, although that's not the norm. It is out there, and they're able to fulfill that simply because they have more skill set and they are able to do more things because of probably the shift of their mindset, more skill set. Managing people is a skill set, so prioritizing is a skill set. And so what we want to do is to fulfill our call, but also make sure that we are fully present to contribute to the people that we love around them. The other thing is that when we don't have a routine, I think the biggest miss is that our home life could be really chaotic. Then our children could also feel that chaos, and there's no discipline and order, which is their first, perhaps, awareness of also building a life of order, which is a prerequisite for peace of mind. Now, that is so crucial if you want to have I would say, create a home that there's peace and joy and harmony. Let me give you a very simple example. Dinner should be sacred for families in a world that's very busy. Everybody should find and make time to eat together. I'm not saying it's necessarily an easy task with all the activities, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. It means that we prioritize it. We think about how we can make it happen. Now, if there's no routine, everybody's just eating on the go, and there's no sense of order, then um, then we could miss the very thing that also allows us to connect deeply as a family in a world that's very busy. Secondly, if we don't have a rhythm for eating dinner together, is it possible that we're also risking our health because we're eating on the go and we're not pausing and eating quality food? Because if you're not eating together as a family, you're probably not cooking quality food. You're probably just kind of doing a drive-by food. So, or the kids are just eating whenever they feel like eating. Now, there, you know, you could have that philosophy where you can just say, well, the kids can eat whenever they want. That is your choice. All I'm telling you is that um, the children also need to have a sense of discipline where they also have a sense of order. It says, I can't just do whenever I want, whenever I feel like. There's an order and a rhythm to life. Now, you could take that and be like, I don't believe in that. That's completely fine. You take the good in what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that it does help our children say no to themselves and regulate their ability to also create order in their life when they know breakfast is this time, kitchen is closed between this time and this time. You don't eat all day. Lunch is this time. You don't eat all day, because then they're also not developing a habit where they could also lead to unhealthy habits in the future. So much of the rhythm of life is connected to the habits that they build as a foundation of their, not just mental health, but their physical health. So that's, I think, an example of that. And a lot also, routine is a form of accountability. And, when our children's like, okay, oh, well, I don't really want to sleep, mom, or I don't really want to go there. Well, no, this is what we do. This is what we do to make sure we take care of our health and we sleep. So I think that's a very important thing, is to also for us to mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually take care of ourselves, but also our families, so that we know when we're exercising, we know when we're cooking healthy meal. And so that to me is a lot of really the purpose of routine, is to be fully present in the moment and have more time to give to your call, your community, your connection, and more importantly, for the training and the formation of your children. Because we don't have a routine, we're reacting all day, which means we're mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally exhausted. We don't have the capacity to think, what does Jane need? What does Mary need? What kind of training does she need? Does she need skills for developing a routine? Does she need skill to recalibrate for her expectation? We don't have the capacity, because we make 35,000 decisions a day. And if we're reacting all day because we don't have a rhythm of life and our children don't have a rhythm of life, we are also robbing our children, of that I would say quality quality health, because they're also reacting. And then by the time 10 o'clock comes around, we're so tired, we can't form our children, but they're also exhausted because they're just trying to react to your indecision or lack of accountability. And they're exhausted. Now they're throwing a tantrum. Well, we silence that tantrum by putting a movie on, and then that movie on then becomes their crutch, and they're not really developing. Do you see I would say, massive impact of perhaps not being able to create a rhythm of life and a routine that's consistent? So what do we do? Well, what are some of the limiting beliefs, I think, with developing a routine? I can't do it. Henry Ford said, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're also right. Um, our inability to actually say no to ourselves and our children, that we think that we have to cater to our children's whatever desire as though they can regulate their own desire, and as though they know how to order their life, and our life revolves around them as though they know how to order life. We should be the one ordering and helping them order their life, not us also in a whim of a child that's incapable of regulating. No, that doesn't mean that you're not paying attention to your child's need. Doesn't mean that you're not listening to their cry. It just means that the more you actually create order in their day, the more they're actually happier, because they know what to expect. They're not, I don't want to go anymore, mom. Okay, well, not go anymore. Well, I'm not saying that, you don't listen to them, but you could alter the whole day simply because your children all of a sudden was fickle in her emotion, and you realize, well, we can't go anymore, even though that was our scheduled playtime, or that was our scheduled time, because X, Y, and Z threw a tantrum, and I can no longer, I'm altering my whole entire day. Now, one of the things that I think is so, uh, I would say, limiting about routine is that a lot of women that have had a negative experience of routine, maybe because their family of origin, their parents were so rigid. And so their understanding of a routine is that it's rigid. So here's what I want you to even just kind of pause and ponder. You know, the way maybe it was modeled for you was rigid. That doesn't mean that's the way a routine and a rhythm of life ought to be. And if you think of people that have achieved success, material success in their life, they have routines. They have ordered life because they have to do so much. They don't have a choice but to make sure that they do, from 9 to 10, they have a meeting, from 10 to 11. There's a sense of order in their day. And so the rigid experience that you have, you could look back into that, heal that wound, and say, that was modeled to me incorrectly, even though maybe my parents had great intention. I don't have to then go to the polar extreme, right? Because that's what children do. They go to polar extremes because there's lack of maturity of their emotion. I can say, now, what good can I take from that negative experience and make it actually a contribution to my present moment, and not go the other extreme? Two polar extremes, virtue is always kind of right in the middle. And being able to kind of harness both the good. So the limiting belief is often it's rigid, it's stifling, that there's no flexibility. I'm going to challenge you that the more order and your challenge your belief, the more systematic and ordered your routine is, the more actually you're able to be flexible, because, even if you decide to go on an adventure on a Wednesday, Thursday, things are taken care of 95% of the time. You know that you're eating healthy 95% of the time. You know that your children are, they know when they're reading, they know when their bath time is, they know when when you're working, when your husband comes home. And so you can actually be more spontaneous without guilt. So that you're guilty because you don't have a rhythm of life, and you don't know when you're going to shower, you don't know when you're going to eat, you don't know if your children are eating healthy. And so I think the idea is that you're creating a rhythm, not a rigid order. Like, it's not like 9:02, okay, everybody drop everything. That is sometimes maybe what was negatively experienced, and now what we are seeing is an impact where we resist anything routine. I was coaching a lady, and I just hound on her morning and evening routine because she was kind of all over the place all day and every day. And she was so frustrated by the time 10 o'clock came. She had no time to actually be kind to her children. And she was just easily frustrated, and she just resisted week after week. And I, as a coach, I need to push you into things that you might not want to do, but I know is best for you, and ask for greater accountability. And she just kept pushing back, and she was getting really upset with me. I wasn't mean or anything, but she's like, I don't really want to do a routine. I was like, well, the consequences are this, and you're going to perpetuate the same exact issue. And as we dug deep, I was like, where does this come from? And it came down actually from her mom being really rigid, so she resisted routine. So somewhere in your narrative, it could be that there it was a rigidity that made you feel like any kind of form of order or resistance, I won't do it. So how then do we do this? One more thing I think it's very important. If you lack a routine, and you are in a marriage and your husband's doing a whole lot more, putting out fires, they come home and there's not a sense of order where he can come in to a peaceful place. He comes in and it's like a war zone because you're like, grab the kids, I gotta make dinner. And it's you're just because you've been reacting all day and you're mentally tired. Guess what? Then he comes home and it's not a place of rest. Or it could be a place of rest because he loves being home and is a great dad, but he can't think creatively, strategically, exponentially to also fulfill his call because he's just putting out fires and he wants to help you and he's a great dad. But he comes home instead of actually having a place to feel this rest and rejuvenation, he goes into this fight and flight mode. Let me figure it out. He's a man who I probably just wants to move into the solution. So he's doing solution and he has no energy to give to you in greater capacity. He has no energy to also maybe fulfill his own dreams or maybe fulfill his call. Maybe he's called to, I don't know, build an orphanage or do something outside, maybe lead a group of men. He is hijacked, but see, it's deceiving because he's being a really good dad by catering to your lack of routine and rhythm of life, and he's there for you, but essentially you have robbed him of his call. Essentially, you've robbed him potentially of his ability to do great work in the home and outside the home. And you could also be robbing yourself of that ability to do the best work that you can as a working mom, because even when you're at work, you're just thinking of your children because there's no order and rhythm when I know they're sleeping right now. I know when they're eating. I know what they're doing. It's, when you have maybe somebody who's helping you or you're leaving your children, you're at peace when you're able to leave a routine and a rhythm of life to your help, to maybe, a mother's helper or maybe you've hired somebody to help you as a nanny for a short period of time or whatever the time that you need when you're at work to take care of your children. You're at peace that they are getting also the best of their day. And you know that the person taking care of your kids is not just babysitting them with movies, or that they're not just also being so exhausted because the children have no sense of order and they don't want to take care of their kids. And then the babysitter is frustrated. They gets communicated with the children respond to their bad, they're feeling the babysitter's kind of negative energy. And then the child then doesn't feel, I would say, accepted and validated. And they question their self-worth and they question their lovability. All this is happening under the radar. We're just not seeing the ripple impact of a lack of rhythm of life. I cannot emphasize to you enough the gift of being able to create a routine and order and how much more peaceful our homes ought to be when there is a sense of order, whether you work or you stay home or both, which is what I do. I consider myself a stay-home mom. And so, I think this needs to be rethought over and over again in our culture, that, we often think of this kind of how do I balance my life it really is, I would say an imbalanced life is really more of lack of skill set, that we don't know how to um, order some things in our day, say no, prioritize, but also our lack of ability to maybe access and get help, the right kind of help, and sometimes when I talk about help, people are like, it's too expensive. I don't want to go there. That's for you, January. That's for everyone. No, third world countries, people have help all the time. That's actually the infrastructure that our society was built upon hundreds of years ago when we lived in farms and that our grandmothers were next to us. It's just that we've gone away from it, and the idea of asking for help makes a lot of women feel weak, and so we don't even think about it because we've defined what a strong woman is in our culture. So all this is sort of compounding, and you wonder why there's so much depression and anxiety for postpartum moms and even just women in general, because we are called that we are supposed to do things all by ourselves. So once again, it goes back to Henry Ford: whatever you focus on, Whatever if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're also right. We have this part of our brain called a reticular activating system. It's the back part of our brain, and it's near our hippocampus, and it's called our reticular activating system. Whatever we focus on expands. So if I'm pregnant, I start to see all the pregnant women. I never saw them before, right? If I start to look for a Honda, a van, then you start to see all the vans that you've never seen before. You're looking for a truck, you wanted to get your dream car. You start to see them all over the place. That's your reticular activating system at work. It's the same thing with you creating a life of order and integrated life that's fully alive. If you're focusing and you're saying to yourself, it's so hard, I'm just juggling, it's so exhausting, it's so imbalanced, you're going to find more evidence of that imbalanced work as opposed to focusing on what actually you want, which is peace, joy, and harmony and order throughout your day. So essentially, it goes back to what I initially talked about is the importance of training our mindset, our belief system, which is why I'm giving you one skill out of hundreds of skills, but understanding our belief system and our mindset is crucial for sustainability and accountability, and also really essentially for a life that's fully alive, which is peace and joy. So, giving you kind of the back end. So I'm going to just show you the how to create a morning and evening routine very briefly. And that way you can start thinking about your relationship with a routine. Now, morning and evening routine are your bookends. It's your accountability throughout the day. And it's you being able to say that I start my day with a sense of order and I end my day just a sense of order so I can prepare myself for the next day. So I think it's so crucial for working mothers to obviously have a morning and evening routine. The roadblock is often that we're doing things all by ourselves on our own, and there's so much going on because of all the reasons I've told you that sometimes we're too exhausted. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible. The more children I have, the more I say no to myself, and the more I say no even to my children for certain things that I think is not a priority. It might sound good, but it's not the greatest of choice. So once again, it goes back to other compounding skill sets. So those are your bookends, and those to me are sacred. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you what I do. Now, I'm a mom of 8. I'm building a business. I have a 13-year-old. I'm sorry. I have a 3-year-old all the way up to 16 years old. And so my routine and my routine as a mom prior to in the morning and the evening is crucial, but also my routine for my children, which my children are in a routine. Now, I will say to you that I did really train my children without crying because I don't really believe in it from the hospital, also a sense of a rhythm of life. So my children went to bed 12 hours by 12 weeks, all 8 of them, and different temperaments. And this is obviously another training in itself. So that is a big, huge caveat for me. So my children don't get up in the middle of the night. I have trained them. It's a whole lot of training and a whole lot of discipline and our ability to say no to ourselves those first 12 weeks. So that is a big part of also, as a mom, that is crucial. I do a lot of Montessori and Love and Logic, if that's familiar to you. Some parts of conscious parenting, but also really hard discipline. So I kind of do a hodgepodge. I don't just do kind of one thing. I look at every child, look at my family, look at what the needs are for the season, and then I make that decision. So I'm constantly sort of studying. So anyways, I just give you a background that our routines can change on a weekly basis. What doesn't and what shouldn't change is the fact that we have a routine. Okay. My training came when in college. I had to do a morning and evening routine, also time block my day by a mentor of mine, and I had to write it on a daily basis, even though it was consistent. Because writing is wiring, and writing helps us to wire in our brain. So I had to actually write it in a sticky note on a daily basis, even though it was exactly the same. So I credit so much of, my peace in my own motherhood, 4 kids under 4, as a very peaceful time. 8 children, it's peaceful. I think not because I have some superpower, but I think because of routine. That to me is hands down. Obviously, other skill set that I train women in and I've learned, but I think it all hinges also on this beautiful rhythm of life that I think is foundational to a working mom, to mothers, to, I think, every woman, if we want to live a peaceful life that is fully alive, that is full of adventure and spontaneity and fully present in the moment, and where we feel satisfied and also successful throughout the day because we've achieved the very thing that's important to us, such as eating healthy and quality conversation, exercising, making sure we're spending time with the people that we love, our spouse, our friends. All that gets built into our rhythm of life. And then that way we're not negating ourselves. We know when to shower, when to take care of ourselves, when we need to, have me time. So let's begin this morning and this evening routine. It can vary different seasons. When I was postpartum, I didn't have a morning routine the way I wanted to have a morning routine because I was waking up every 3 hours, every 5 hours. And then I gave myself that grace period. And then even then I would have like rest time and I would kind of prepare myself. But really after 6 months, I was back into my routine. So let me just share with you how to create this morning routine and also pepper there kind of what I do for myself. So you'll have a great understanding. Okay, so let me just see here. All right, so anyways, I'm just going to give you, this is one of our, part of our actually class 3. I teach the New Woman Masterclass, and I teach skill after skill, mindset after mindset, and I teach basically the foundation of how we can show up as a woman in our culture today, because there's no access to that deep dive training. So I really walk through every part of woman's life, our self-image, our mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health, our friendship, our intimacy, our contribution, our environment, our wealth, our family. And I talked about the belief system, our mindset, our old wounds, talk about our unconditional self-worth, how our minds work, our emotional command. And I teach you how to build character and skill sets. So thousands of scripts. So this, I'm giving you actually one of the 64 lessons as part of that New Woman Masterclass. So I'm only going to touch on here. This is different skill set. There's 9 skills here: planning, daily, time blocking, project. So I'm only going to talk about here boundary scripts, the morning and evening routine, and I think time blocking. Okay, so just so that you have an idea and context here, these are the time robber training, evaluating your commitment training. Here we go. These are boundary scripts that I teach, so we know how to say no. Say no to our children, say no to our friends, say no to. So anyways, so here we go. So morning routine. So however morning, whatever time your children starts, right? Because this is for working moms. Maybe you're single and you're interested in listening to this. However you think, whatever time you think your morning needs to start to get you started to go to work, or to get you started your work at home, because home is work. I want you then to think of your morning routine as prior to that. Okay. So what should be in our morning routine? Number one, we should have time for prayer and meditation. And that centers us, because that helps us to just get our source for our day, to give us peace, to kind of prepare us and actually prepare really physically our mind to kind of get into that state of almost rest state in the morning, and not just get up and start do. Gotta get breakfast. I gotta get it. And you're shoving yourself in the morning. Here you're entering yourself in the morning. So, so rise and ready. Transition times and building a routine is crucial. We sometimes don't understand the importance of building transition time. Transition time is going from one activity or one time block to another. So rise and get ready. So I typically get up at 4:30 in the morning, rise and get ready. That's 15 minutes. I just brush your teeth and wash my face and kind of get ready 15 minutes. But I don't go and be like, oh, it's 4:40, gotta rush. I try to create that rhythm that's peaceful, but not rigid. And the key thing is that when your alarm clock gets up, you're up. That's the first discipline. Your alarm clock gets up, you get up. When I'm not healthy or I feel like I'm fighting something, I don't, I bypass my morning routine because I need more sleep. So rise and ready, 4:30, 4:45, prayer and meditation, 30 minutes, 45 to 5:15. This is also a time for journaling. You can read a spiritual book. I tend to do my prayer and meditation, but then I'll also read a spiritual book after the 30-minute mark. It really depends on kind of how long you want to be able to pray. But I think the bare minimum should be at least a half an hour, where you're journaling, you're doing your gratitude, you're thinking, you start your day with the sense of gratitude throughout your day that changes also how you view your day. So you start, and there's a whole thing that I do as well to plan your day, but I'm just going to focus on this. So that's 30 minutes. You can plan 15 minutes. Okay, what's my plan for this week? What's my plan for my week? As a working mom, I've got targets, right? I have my targets in my home life, but I also have targets in my work. So I'll outline what those targets are. I look at my calendar. I'll also look at my menu. I have my menu that I plan on a weekly basis so that I know, okay, this is when I'm going to the grocery store. Sometimes my groceries kind of get pivoted in certain times. Pivot means that I have sometimes have windows of them, but it's not consistent because sometimes I have extra food. I don't need to go to the grocery store. Um, so I'll do sort of my planning, and then I'll do my study time, which is I do spiritual reading, but I also do some study. I think mothers, when we are not studying ourselves, studying new things that keep us interested in life, I would say this is primary study of personal development. We could easily fall into the trap of being a fixed mindset and trying to solve our life's problem and new circumstances with very limited mindset and skill set. So I think this study time is really about developing yourself. This is self-development study. So that's 30 minutes. And then house prep is what if you have house prep, you could be making breakfast if you don't have help. I have hired live-in help for me after my fourth child, and we didn't have any money for it. We paid very minimal, and I just used my reticular activating system. I dressed all my clothes, were not all, but our furniture was from the thrift store except for a few. The clothes, I didn't care about anything material. I cared about having help at home because that was important for me to actually be able to be present with my children. I was pregnant with number 5, and so that was something that was important to me. It doesn't have to be your case. So you could have 6 to 6:30. If your breakfasts are the same on a weekly basis, the prep time is easy, and you can make eggs a lot, that's healthy, or oatmeal, or whatever you think is healthy. You just know that it takes me half an hour of prep and maybe half an hour of cleanup or getting the lunches ready. So you almost have from 6 to 6, 6 to 7. I to work till 7 because that's when my kids get up, and I've got 7 to 8 when my children are actually getting ready for school. Most of them I've trained to make their own lunches. I also just live a block from school, which we did very strategically, so we don't have driving time. So that's what for me. So I actually have from 4:30 to 7 to do my study, a lot of the things that I feel like prepares my mind, studying myself. I do a little bit of work, and so that's what I do. So that's what you do is then you think, okay, how long is this prep time? And this could vary for you, the duration. And then when would you start? So an hour, just for me, that's just example, an hour and a half is what I need prior to starting my day. So now my children come down at 6 o'clock, or even if your children comes down at 6 o'clock, you snuggle with them or love on them because that's important. But then you say, okay, 6:30 to 7, you're reading a book. And nope, you're reading a book. That's what we do at 6:30 to 7. That's, and they will throw a fit for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but then they realize, nope, mom's serious about this. This is good for me. And you tell them this is really good for you. And or you can help me, but only one of you can help me every other day, because not both of you can help me. And because it gets a little bit more busy. It really depends on your on your capacity. Excuse me. My children help me a lot in the kitchen because I think competence builds confidence. And so I work with them almost very strategically, one at a time or two at a time, and they know to wait. So it all depends. And you create, once again, those boundary skills, those ability for you to be able to say, right now it's reading time, and nope, it's reading. Oh, throw a fit. You can go back to your room and you can come down if you're ready to join us, but it's reading time. A 2-year-old, actually, a 3-year-old can understand that. I've got a 3-year-old, I've got a 2-year-old. A lot of times we don't give them enough credit in their ability to actually manage their emotion because we enable it, because we just cater to their emotion. I don't want to, I don't feel like it. I know, but sometimes life, it's not just about how we feel, it's about what I think is right and what's good for you at this moment. So you train them. And if you're doing this for the first time, you have to recalibrate, which is another skill in itself. And you say, you know what, we're recalibrating our morning routine, and we're going to get everybody on a rhythm of life. Nobody comes down before 7. I have to recalibrate my kids almost on a, 3-month basis, because sometimes they'll come down a little earlier, and I'll say, you don't come down until 7 because this is mom and dad time for prayer. And you too can get up in the morning. You can read a book and prayer. I've got a 16-year-old that I'm also helping him develop a morning routine so that he can start his day prior to that he's reading. So I'm always sort of helping, and my other children, helping them sort of develop you in that time of reading in the morning, quiet prayer time. So for us, we do from 7 to 8. We'll put on prayer meditation. I'll put on a classical music in the background. Everybody's sort of getting ready. That changes their mood. If you want to light a candle, I love it. I think setting that mood in the morning to prepare our children is also great. Now, this hinges on your ability to also make sure that you're not doing things in an anxious way. You're doing things in a way that's peaceful, and this will help you. So when you're getting snacks ready, you're like, I gotta get the snacks ready, and I gotta get this, and oh, can you? That's habitual negative pattern, which is sometimes we're unaware of it. As a matter of fact, I just policed my 12-year-old because I expect them to do things in a way that's ordered and peaceful. That is my expectation for all my children. I was noticing she was late to do something, and she had to make cookies for her team. And so I was noticing her the other day, and she's like, I gotta get this, mom. And I said, Ina, pause, look at your clock, manage your time, more importantly, manage your mind. You cannot wire this sort of anxious habit. I've got to cut this off right now. And so she's like, yeah, you're right, mom. I'm noticing it. And then I found it again the next day because she has a play and she was rushing. I said, you get up earlier so you don't rush. You work backwards from your routine. You make sure you get accountability from your sister to make sure you wake up on your alarm earlier. Sometimes I hear their alarm go off and they don't necessarily wake up to it. And so I'm policing their ability to police their capacity to do things in a calm way. Okay. So that's important. Like that's another skill in itself that I think sometimes we don't realize. And so she's like, oh yeah, mom. And so she recalibrate. Okay, mom, I'm recalibrating. So she recalibrated herself, make sure. I was like, I don't want you to feel like you have to rush into things. Oh, you got to go, mom. Her physical behavior could impact her ability to manage her mind, but her mind actually was impacting her physical behavior. So we need to know that, and we need to police it so that they don't wire that and hardwire it into their system. Work backwards better. So anyways, I'm giving you a side note here. And so now at 7 o'clock, and this is what your morning routine looks like, right? And then ask yourself, what are the things that you want to add in? And then just add in that time. The key thing is that if you're starting for the first time, you need coaching and accountability, because to do this consistently, you really need accountability. Accountability is key to anything that we achieve in our life. And so it could be that you have an accountability partner and a coach, and you say, listen, I'm working on this just today and then just this week. Morning routine. Then you tag on the evening routine. Now, evening routine is that when you start to kind of wind up for your day, right? It could vary for different people. And the main thing is that you're counting your hours of sleep, but you're also counting your hours of your children's sleep. My children, I train them to count their hours of sleep. Why? Because that's their ability to manage their physical health, but also their mental health. If they're not getting good sleep, they're not learning. They're also a bit edgy. So you're helping them count their sleep. You're also modeling for them counting your sleep. So for me, I get home between 4 and 5. My children are in school, so they get home about 3:30. So I get home like an hour. My husband is home. I do have help. My younger children, 3 to 4, get home around 1 o'clock. And so that's just the season, but I've had babies all throughout you know, uh, working as well. So all this kind of gets recalibrated when there's babies. And that's another training in itself. When they're babies, I do very strategic work and bulk work, 3-hour time blocks at a time. When I say babies, it's a year and under. So anyways, side note. So then from 1 to 4, I've got somebody obviously that's there helping my children because I work, but then I come home and I make dinner. I spend time with the children from 4:30 on until obviously night routine. So that's what my day looks like. It could be different for you. You could have older children, you could have younger children, you could be only working in the morning and not in the evening. But the idea here is that you're kind of seeing the importance of keeping that evening routine sacred. Now, I also have teenagers, which means that they have games. And so we do the best that we can. When Ryan has to take them for games, when we're home, we eat dinner together and we work together and we play together, and whoever's there needs to be there. Oh, mom, I already ate because I was at a friend's house and we had a play practice. You sit down for dinner anyway. That's what we do, right? My 3-year-old, my 4-year-old, I'm constantly policing them because sometimes they are learning to have command of their own body physically. So they're not necessarily kind of staying put all the time, but I'm helping them develop habits of discipline so they are staying and that we are communicating during dinner time. So here I come home and, I'm just going to start here, dinner prep time, 5 to 6. Now, what's important is that on a weekly basis, I'll have my menu ready. So I kind of know I'm marinating 4 different meats. I can do that very quickly. probably 15 minutes for all those meat. I just have the meat, wash them and season them. And then that way I've got meat marinating. So it's really kind of tender and it's easy to cook. And depending on what I'm cooking, it could be that I've got a roast. So I'll, ask my help to say, just put them on already at 1 o'clock. So I'm doing that in the morning, actually between 8 and 9, because if my children go to school at 8, but my younger children go to school at 9. So 8 to 9, I'm getting ready. I'm getting also the house ready. There's just a sense of order. I'm looking at the house and I'm seeing kind of what the needs are. And I just do it kind of habitually. And obviously I get help for laundry because that's, as a working mom, that's important to me so that I come home and I'm spending time with my children. But that wasn't always the case. I did laundry with all 4 kids under 4 while also training women. So it's very possible. You just have to be very strategic about it. You can also hire mother's helpers just to say laundry for 2 hours, $5. It's great. Or your children. Like I think my children, I don't have help all the time. So my children knew they also had to do laundry certain times when they came home. They had to finish it. There was sort of a schedule. Anyways, that's a side note. So an hour of prep time and then 5 to 6 and then dinner 6 to 7. That's for cleanup. We don't really eat that long because I still have young children and they eat a lot faster and they get distracted. But it's just prep time and cleanup, getting my 7-year-old to make sure that she's setting the table, getting my 7 or getting everybody kind of their own jobs after dinner and cleanup. And then really from, excuse me, 7 to 8, it's family visit time, right? And Ryan sometimes has to work late for certain times in real estate. So a lot of times, it's not actually a lot of time, different seasons. Typically dinner is sacred for us and Ryan comes home. There's been seasons in my life that Ryan will come home, past 7 once or twice a week. And sometimes that's just inevitable. So then Ryan will eat dinner later, but then it's family visit time and there's an accountability in saying when you come home, it's not work time. When you're home, you're home. And so are there exceptions? Like if I have a watch party or something going on, I'm speaking, of course, but this is the norm, right? And so then it's visit and play time. Like yesterday, came home around 4:30. I had leftover chicken. I tried to kind of do my menu or one day and then have leftovers on one day and then have leftovers. Then last night I didn't have to cook. The day before I did, and we ate a little bit later because we were at the park a little bit longer. So it's kind of there's fluidity, but it's still within that really time frame. We eat dinner really between 5:30 to 6:30 roughly. As soon as we prep dinner, if I get done earlier, if food is hot, I want them to eat it. So anyway, 7, and we pray the rosary. That's also when shower and bath happens. And then get ready for bed for my littles. 8 to 8:30. This has been a bit more fluid as of recent. Well, actually, this is more fluid. Here's reality. They were taking a nap. So from after school, my 3 and my 4 were taking a nap from 1 to 3. That's important. Like I was sacred about their nap and because it really keeps them healthy. So it was also great because I really wasn't away from them because by the time they got home, I was only gone for like an hour because they were in school. Now, but because they were about 3 or 4 years old, they didn't sleep till 9:30 because they had a long nap, a 2-hour nap. And so now I said, okay, I'm recalibrating their naps. And I always my children, they're 13 months apart, I had 15 months apart. So I would always just try to match their rhythm of life. That was just simpler for me, even though I had, 2 sets of everything. I had 13 months apart, then I had 15 months apart. So I did have I'm working with different age group and rhythm of life, but within the context of the same order. So I cut off their nap, but then, and so the sitter would know, okay, there's no more nap. These are the things that they can do. I arrange my home environment to make sure they've got their magnets, they've got their, drawing. I pay attention to what their needs are. And then that way in those 3-hour period, that they have that. Now at 4:30, I'll put on if I'm not home, I'll, put on that movie for them, because it's kind of a long window for them and they just sort of need a little break. Okay. So I'll put on like that, maybe hour movie if I'm not home, and that's okay for me. That works for me right now. And then I come home and it's shut off, and it just depends if I'm not able to be there right at 4:30. So those are my boundaries for my children. And so they'll have that. So now that they're not napping, they're sleeping a little bit earlier, 8 to 8:30 at 4 years old, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, because they get really tired, all depends. But the thing that I am working with is kind of this time of family connection. So they really love to be with the older children. With 8 children, they love to be with everyone else. So sometimes I'll let them stay up a little later because they actually like to visit with their siblings, and I do want them, and they'll just sleep in a little later. So you're always sort of managing all this. And then my older children, connection time with my older children, my two girls, Ryan and I will take turns, but then I'm also connecting with my teenagers. Like I've almost four of them. And so that usually happens later because they come home from, a game, or there's just sort of activities, and what we have for dinner, and then maybe they'll go out for an activity or something, like mom can just go to visit a friend's house. Yes and no. But really it's hounding on that family time is so crucial for me. And so during that time, 9:30, I'll visit. My oldest son, sometimes it's like 10 o'clock, and I tell him I need to make sure that I go to bed and count my hours of sleep, because I want to be able to have, for me, if I get 7 hours, I'm golden. That I think it is great. So now you're working on, say, let's just say, 5 hours to kind of start your evening routine. Then your evening routine that you're saying, okay, 9:30, I'm getting ready for bed. Um, so that you can wake up again the next morning. It's going to vary. I'm just giving you kind of a sample here. I've been trying to go to bed for me 9:30, and so my older children, I'll get them to wake up early so I can visit with them in the morning, and obviously they visit with them after school. But some of my oldest son doesn't come home from golf till later, so I want to be able to visit with him. So I'm always sort of finding this pockets of time to visit in the context of our routine. So then I know, okay, it's me. Ryan's kind of doing the girls, I'm doing the boys, or maybe sometimes we'll switch. Or the boys want to be with me at this point, and then we'll do the older children, and then we'll settle up for bed at night. Sometimes I, get physically tired that unfortunately Ryan and I come together, we're like, oh, we're just a little bit just physically just kind of tired, but we we're in this together and we love being with each other. And so any moment that we can, we really just try to be together, work together, but also we're in this together and we're talking all day. And so we really have a lot of time together, and date night is sacred for us. So this is a sample of that evening routine, morning routine. Okay. So think about what yours is, and it could vary differently. Right. And this is what my day looks like during the day. Roughly. Well, this is a sample, so maybe it's not. Let me just see if I have a sample in here. 5 to 7, like 4:30 to 7, it's, your preparation time in the morning. 7 to 9 is for me with my children, preparing my home, cleaning up, getting everybody out the door. 9 to 12 is a working time block for me. Essentially, it's 9 to 3 for me, but it might be 9 to 12 for you. You might get help during that time if you're working, or you could be, your children are in school for a short amount of time, and then you work that, and then you're in the afternoon with the children. So it just depends. But time blocks are so crucial, because what you're saying is that I am, throughout my day, I know exactly when all these bulk things happen. I know when I'm showering, getting ready, taking care of the house, and it's all in that bulk time. It's not like 7:30 to 12. I mean, you can, but when you've got that block time, it's a sense of a rhythm, right? So now you've got 9 to 12, 12 to 1. It could be lunchtime and break for everyone. 1 to 4 is another time block. And then 4 to evening time is, till dinner is another time block. And maybe after dinner until bedtime is another time block. That's really what I find is more sustainable, is those time blocks. And then when to get help, when to come home, what to say no to. And also you have to make sure you have built-in transition time. You're transitioning from, leaving work to going to work. And maybe when you're doing that, you are driving. So in that, you're making sure that you're putting in your time block transition, travel time. And I would suggest in those travel time, what Tony Robbins has called University on Wheels, you're training your mind. So you're not listening to just junk or music or the news. You can do that because we need to pay attention to, but you're really listening to things that are really important for your personal development, your peace of mind, and your, podcast. I know a lot of women do that. So have your built-in transition time. The transition time could be from your work time to lunch, even though you're at home. Transition just means that you're moving from one thing to another, but you want to make sure that you built it in so you're not kind of like you're having an accurate measure of what your day looks like. You don't necessarily have to put it in, but you just know I'm in transition. So I'm just kind of moving and I'm not rushing, right? And that's the idea. And so all of this hinges on our ability to say no to ourselves, our ability to say no to everyone else in a way that's ordered. This is also hinges on your skill level, all other compounding skill set that allows you to fulfill your call, your contribution, your connection in your particular season of your life. And that's the purpose of it. Underneath here are commitments. Everybody has different commitments, daily, weekly, morning, evening. Everybody's in different season. Write down what those commitments are, and that becomes what you add into your time block. And I think the more we can simplify our day on a consistent basis, and the more we can train our mind to say it's really possible to have a rhythm and order of life, even though I travel, even though I've got little kids, the more you can shift your mindset, the more this is possible. And maybe it's us saying no to other things that are good, but not great in this particular season of our life. So, anyways, I hope this serves you. I hope that this helps you to understand the importance of a rhythm of life, the importance of a routine, and the importance of you protecting your peace, your joy, and creating also a generational capacity for greater peace and joy in your family life, in your home life, because of a rhythm and an order. And I always like to think about the seasons because the seasons have a certain order, and that order allows us to prepare. Okay, now it's fall, now it's summer, and there's a sort of, I would just say, kind of like a harmony that allows us to do that. And it's the same thing for us women. And ultimately, women are called to be pillars of society, pillars of truth, beauty, and goodness. And the more we're able to live order, which is a mark of God, the more, which is also a mark of beauty, the more we're able to live our life with such greater meaning, contribution. And remember, the world does not want what the women can offer. The world wants what women are. That's from Edith Stein. I'm butchering that quote. You can look her up. She's a philosopher and also a nun. She's one of my role models. And so who we are is our greatest gift to the people around us. So the more ordered our life is, the more capacity we can contribute the best of who we are to the world. So count in your routine. Ultimately, this requires you to live a life of discipline. Discipline is necessary for freedom. There is no freedom without discipline. Freedom rooted in responsibility. I love that word, discipline. Discipline in my thought, discipline in my action, discipline in my ability to say no to myself, say no to my children, say no to the world who wants and demands so much of me, so that I can hold myself to greater accountability, ultimately, so I can give more of the best of who I am to the world. And I think it is time for women to become pillars of society where where we're not pulled from everything, trying to respond, becoming a victim to a world of feelings and emotions, and I would say the devaluing of women. Rather, we are firm in who we are because we live a life of order. And because of order, we're able to fill ourselves with good things that allow us to become resilient and become pillars in society. And that is my hope for you. And that is my hope for your family, your relationship, your friendship, your community, and your work, that it becomes a walking contribution to humanity. My name is January Donovan, founder of the Women's School. If this has served you, come join our school where I give you practical life training on how to be a woman and how you can develop all these skill set that allows you to become a walking contribution and give greater meaning to your life. Ultimately, we want to be able to die and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have become the woman that I created you to be. And that is my vision for you. Join our community. We've got great work ahead of us for this time in history with a lot of darkness. And I think it is time for women to rise up. And it begins with you taking responsibility in your ability to become who you were created to be. Thank you. If you like this practical life training in the Women's School, click subscribe so you can get access to more of our practical life training. Also, comment below and let us know what you think so we can hear from you. Don't forget to like this video and share it, because our vision here in the Women's School is to give you practical life training to help you become who you were created to be for such a time as this.